Hey everyone, thank you for joining the Patient Advocacy Organization Initiative session. Sorry, that was a mouthful. We have two great organizations joining with us today. The first will be Answering TTP, and the second will be the AHUS Alliance. There's some really great presentations. Please feel free to chat in any questions you have, and I will relay them. And we will be going through just a few slides, but we will have time for discussion if anybody has any burning questions. So the first representative I want to bring on here is Mina Rajan from Answering TTP. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. You can definitely correct me when you get on here. So let me just load your slides up and I will put.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mina Rajan. That was fine, Claire. I'm a TTP patient, and I've been a TTP patient since 1994. I've had 1 episode and 3 relapses. My ADAM-TS13 is doing quite well right now, but I do take rituximab every 18 months or so. I want to talk to you about our foundation, Answering TTP Foundation. I've been a volunteer with the foundation for over 12 years. And it's totally run by volunteers. And so we always welcome new volunteers. Please do apply if you're interested. I've been on the board for a couple of years, and I am a patient relations director. My role is to hold patient support meetings every few months, and also take in calls like one-on-one patient support. I do that as well. Lately, our focus has been on getting caplacizumab approved. In the group in Canada, the group that approves rare drug disease, denied funding for caplacizumab. So we've been working hard last year, the whole year, in getting this approved. And so when we found out, we were very disappointed. And so we thought, okay, we have to fight back and get this drug approved. I'm going to talk about that a bit more when I talk to you about caplacizumab. Perfect, thank you there. So I want to start with the goals for Answering TTP. The first one is providing patient support to alleviate the feeling of isolation that accompanies the diagnosis of a rare disorder, and some of us know how that feels. My example would be in 2010, I was struggling, no medications would work on me, and I was depressed, and someone from Answering TTP Foundation held my hand, and of course my family was there, but that someone that's gone through it is really that someone that's gone through this disease, they know how you feel, so that's very valuable. The second goal is inspiring TTP patients and supporters to share their stories, to help enrich the TTP community and garner public support for TTP. Awareness is a huge thing, as you know, with our rare disease. And we want you to submit your stories. So we encourage patients to come to our website and submit the stories. We would love to hear from you. Maintaining the third one, role is maintaining consolidated information platform to disseminate information to the geographically dispersed community. There's so few of us, so this is really important. FYI, we do have a medical team, advisory team on board. The next goal, providing a unified voice to ensure access to the safest and the most effective treatments. And an example would be when I talk about caplacizumab. The next goal, developing TTP education materials and distributing initiatives to educate the public and the medical community to speed diagnosis and save lives. So please visit our website. We have tons of materials in there for patients and professionals. The last goal is supplying fundraising support and guidance to raise funds for effective TTP research. To ultimately find a cure, we're really excited about the money we've committed to TTP research. An example would be under events on our website, International TTP Day. That's held every September, and that's one of my favorites. I get family and friends to donate, and then we do a walk around the park, and that's how I do my contribution to the foundation. For research grants, we encourage professionals to visit our webpage, and there's lots of information on how to apply for grants. So my next point is the caplacizumab, giving you an update on what's going on here in Canada. So when caplacizumab was discovered, this wonderful drug, and our group that approves drugs, they denied funding, and we think it's because they didn't have enough data. And so we were very disappointed, and we said, no, this is not good. We have to go back and get this drug approved. It's very crucial for us. So then a year ago, we formed a team, an action group, and held frequent meetings. We wanted patients to join up, and we wanted to educate them as to, here, we're in trouble. We need to get this drug approved. Please help us out. So we started a campaign on our website, which included instructions on contacting your government rep. And we designed a letter, a template. You send it off to your government rep, just one click. And then this letter said how we felt and how important it was to get this drug approved. Then the next point we made with this campaign is now we want a meeting with this government rep. And of course that would be very difficult, but some of us were able to meet with the government rep and say, make some noise, tell them about our story and how important this drug is to us, especially the ones that are refractory. And please, contact the health minister, Canadian health minister, to tell them that this group that wants this investigated, and please to have it review this, this CADETS group that denied funding to review it and approve. And so after hard work, we have some good news. The pharmaceutical company was able to resubmit. We as a patient group were able to resubmit, and this time we included a patient video, which has never been done before. There was a group of us that taped this videos explaining our story and why it was important to us to have this drug approved, the funding approved. So that's good news for us. Now, this fall, we'll find out the results, and we're hoping for good results. And so if the drug is approved for funding, then we have another hurdle, because another challenge we have is each province has different policies. So hopefully, once we get there, we'll discuss as how to get over that hurdle. So my last point is current challenges facing TTP patients. We do need a better system in Canada to approve drugs for rare disease, and I am hoping there's committees that are working on it. And I want to thank the speakers today, because they covered a lot of our challenges, as I'm sure a lot of you will agree. And as a patient, we know some of us have mental fog and depression after an episode. Images have been done on us and compared to normal brains, and there is evidence. But we need more scientific data, and so to help us validate, deeper scientific understanding. And so this sort of evidence is so crucial for drug evaluators when new drugs come in the market. The other challenge is there's such a small group, and so how are we supposed to gather data? It's very difficult. Someday we hope that these challenges are going to be resolved. I think that I want to thank the USTMA for doing what they did today. I enjoyed the sessions, and I'm glad that they do have this sort of support group at times, and ask the hematologist and whatever USTMA is doing. I think it's great. We need all the support we can get. So this ends my presentation. I was wondering if there's any questions.
All right, there don't seem to be any questions at the moment, but if they come in, I will definitely, no, we do have a question. 1 second, I'm gonna hop off.
Okay. When you get preventative rituximab, does it disrupt your daily life? Do you have to miss work? No, I love the drug. I maybe have a little bit of muscle pain, but I can have a normal life. And when we have those support meetings, I just have mostly positive things to say about TTP and how I live my life. I mean, every patient's different, and it would be different for every patient, but for me, it's my wonder drug. So the TTP Awareness Day this year, I believe it's the third Saturday of September. And we've made it very flexible. If folks cannot honor that day, they can have it any day. And as long as they're bringing awareness to this disorder. If there's no more questions, I want to thank USTMA for allowing us to speak today. I think it was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us all this great information. And I'll bring up our next speakers now.
AnsweringTTP.org, sorry, I forgot to mention, is our website.
Hello, I'm Linda Burke. I'm a volunteer with the AHUS Alliance Global Action Team. And I was so pleased that USTMA invited our group to come and speak to AHUS patients and to the USTMA team about the work that we do, our focus, and our current initiatives to bring more awareness to atypical AHUS. As you can see on the image that's on your screen right now, one of the things that's so very important about USTMA, and again, that was mentioned by the TTP, Answering TTP Foundation, was progress through collaboration. And if you look at our next slide, that's what we've tried to do. Claire, if you bring up the next slide, thank you. I think that's something that I've heard in common throughout the day, that we want to connect, inform, and collaborate. That's on our website at AHUSAllianceAction.org. And as you can see within our logo, we serve patients, families, and address AHUS topics and issues in more than 30 nations, because we too are a group of volunteers. We're patients and family caregivers. We're an international group of atypical AHUS community leaders who want to make atypical AHUS patients' needs, issues, research more available and more visible. Within that, if you look at this, what can patient advocates do? Well, Claire, if you turn to the next slide, please. Thank you. There are some very broad issues and needs within our global atypical AHUS community. And a key facet of that is that patients and advocates and caregivers are seldom asked by other stakeholders to translate patient experiences into a meaningful way that will assist academics, physicians, and industry leaders. And so we're very pleased that USTMA has invited us and that we are asking all patients within the atypical AHUS community, as well as clinicians, family caregivers, industry, to join us in Atypical AHUS Awareness Day, which is marked annually the 24th of every September. This year's theme is AHUS awareness through togetherness. And I think that's something that USTMA exemplifies by combining researchers not only within the US, but also across the world. The key issues for our atypical AHUS community are receiving a rapid and accurate diagnosis, access to the right treatments for the appropriate duration, medical interdisciplinary care. Atypical AHUS is a very complex disease. And so it's very important not only that we have TMA multidisciplinary teams, but also that medical education goes out early and often to that advantage, and that we're looking for a wider array and inclusion of patient input. On our next slide, you see that it's not just a matter of patient engagement. It's really a matter of patient integration. On Atypical AHUS Awareness Day, we have invited clinicians, researchers, academics, clinical trial teams, and anyone involved with the atypical AHUS space to come in and participate in AHUS Awareness Day, as well as our other initiatives. Part of that is listening to and consulting with patient leaders in advocacy and knowing what they're doing. You need to value our experiences. It's not enough for us to tell our stories in isolation. It's important to create a unified voice and explain what those stories, what our experiences mean. Is it that clinical trials are difficult to access? Is it that delayed diagnosis has impacted not only our physical health, but it's a family-wide illness? Atypical AHUS impacts everyone within that family, whether it's social, emotional, whether it's an economic burden, but it's important to redefine patient engagement to help move forward these initiatives. You can see that our very biggest initiative is the CAB launch, a community advisory board. As you can see on our next slide, we have the AHUS CAB logo. And what it is we're filling a need. We need to be, as advocates, whether it's a patient, family, caregiver, we need to be advocates that are informed. So we formed an international board. These patients and caregivers are going to go through a training process. It's independent and autonomous so that we have that transparency. And why we have it is we can provide the collective expertise. So this is probably our major initiative that's currently underway. And that will be available to academics, to industry, and to anyone in a research network. It will be patient-centric, and it will focus on what really matters to AHUS patients and the AHUS community internationally. Again, part of this will come up. We have on our website, AHUSAllianceAction.org. We have our Atypical AHUS Awareness Day initiative. And we ask everyone to join in. We do have a video project that's currently underway with international entries from patients all over the world. But there are also, there's information, assets, and resources that everyone in the academic and industry circles can use to also be involved. But this is a new connection point for us that we feel is very valuable. On our next slide, you can see why this is really so important, not just for atypical AHUS, but for any rare disease group. With rare disease research, we still run into the brick wall with the same stumbling blocks. We're small patient numbers to begin with. We have underserved nations. Patient engagement sometimes, instead of saying, looking across social media and saying, wow, this looks like a great initiative. I wonder who put this out. What's the story behind that? That's what we would like to see, because currently the information flow is fragmented and the outreach is very disjointed as well. And because of that lack of connectivity, we end up losing opportunities, and lost opportunities also translates to poorer patient outcomes. It translates to delayed diagnosis for a major point. And that's one of the things that AHUS Awareness Day on the 24th is very important. Our next slide is about patient-centered care. Drug access is one thing, but cost is something that drives drug access as well. Because if it's a very expensive drug, it's going to be very hard for national rare disease policy to support that because of the low patient numbers. So whether it's clinical trials, policy and regulations, patient registries, research efforts, orphan drug research and development. All of these are something that atypical AHUS patients need to be involved with. All of us are just volunteers, where none of us are specially trained, except we're now having the CAB with the special training. So there are no employees to do this for us. This is something we all have to do together. So part of that are the patients and families themselves who need to define patient engagement. We do not need to have an outside agency tell us how to be informed. We know what we need, and we want people to engage with us. But that is a responsibility for patients and caregivers. It is also something we'd like to see physicians engage with more. And that's why we're so happy to be involved with this USTMA meeting today. What really matters to atypical AHUS families? Well, we did a global research agenda. This was a multi-year project across multiple nations, and we came up with 15 central questions within 5 categories. Some of them dealt with socioeconomics. Obviously, a lot of them dealt with questions. For example, at what point does a TMA cross over? Can we identify it before there's a catastrophic atypical AHUS event? These are the things that patients would like to have addressed. So that's something the AHUS Alliance worked on as an initiative. Another is a recent 4 different, if you can go back to the next slide, last slide, please. The Atypical AHUS Global Survey. We have 4 reports with data gathered from a couple of hundred patients and caregivers across the world. And it's talking about the diagnostic process. What do patients actually run into? And that should be something that we would hope would be important to clinicians. If you look at what's going on, there are many clinicians and researchers who address this. The next slide has a wonderful article that was talking about orphan drug policies. And one of the key factors that really jumped out at the atypical AHUS community in speaking about rare renal drugs was that access to and costs from orphan drugs have most profound implications for patients, but also for their physicians, hospitals, insurance policies, and society at large, not just from, medical standpoints, but also from financial and ethical standpoints. So these are important things. So the individual nations are paramount. There are many atypical AHUS organizations around the world. And since drug policies and drug access varies from nation to nation, we unite that and we bring forward, make visible, we amplify the voices of these different communities. On our next slide, you can see where physicians in South Africa talked about forming a global panel. And that global panel would review atypical AHUS drug access. And this is something that's important. We need to work together. This is the collaborative aspect that is so important. And you do make a difference if you're an atypical AHUS patient. On the next slide, even though national rare disease policies vary, it's really important that patients and physicians work together. The AHUS Alliance is proud to have sitting alongside us right now, Len Woodward. He was very clearly the reluctant advocate and wrote a series for the website about how hard it was to bring AHUS treatment to the UK. And he and other patients did a marvelous job with that, of getting approval for the NICE Commission. Because drug information and access can be very difficult, we do want to make sure that we have different sorts of information on our website. Today, we got a bit of information. We had a contact that said, I need to know, what do I do? We were just diagnosed. And our website does have information on it. We're pleased to have an international network for physician support. It's a doc-to-doc registry, and that's one of the tabs on our website. Within our information system, we have an info center that has a library of AHUS specific research, including a whole section on TMA that we update regularly. One of those sections, if you look at the next slide, is also about a big piece of information that's important for patients and their families, and that is making sure that there's access to the various clinical trials and studies, and also research results. We do have a section on discontinuing treatment or stopping treatment that has all the research that we can find on the various publications dealing with that. There are international aspects. SETS US is in the UK, Cure AHUS is in the Netherlands, and there's also Stop ECU within France as well. So we are very interested in the tailored therapy for atypical AHUS. Personalized medicine is a key fact. So moving forward, what is it that we're trying to address? And on the next slide, you can see one of the key parts that we all need to work together on is addressing knowledge gaps. Part of that is medical education, collegial support, such as our physicians network. Part of that is from their info center. There is a variety of aspects. We have a resource center that has information and articles on patient engagement. I'd like to point out that AHUSalliance.org, we write our own material. It's original content. And for that reason, it's the authentic voice of the atypical AHUS patients. You can see a photo that's at the head of our AHUS clinicians and investigators, where people can go and they can have that information. And it's the doc-to-doc connection that I mentioned. But if you look underneath that, even though there are general considerations for any rare disease group, clinical trials are proprietary to some degree, and so is research into drug discovery. So we have to work around that. The regulations and policies are different from nation to nation, which is key. And patient privacy. If you look at the atypical AHUS, what's different for us rather than other rare disease groups is the disease is different, presents differently in patients. There's no one standard set type of atypical AHUS. So it makes it very difficult for clinicians to work with, seeing that it's a diagnosis of exclusion. There's a lot of extrarenal involvement, so that's a key part. But a big one for us is the variable nomenclature. And this is something that comes up again. We call this complement-mediated atypical AHUS. I've seen CAP AHUS, which refers to the alternate pathway. Is it primary TMA? Is it primary atypical AHUS? And when you look under clinicaltrials.gov, you might find it listed under complement-mediated diseases. So it's very difficult to find information and to connect it, but that is one of our goals. On our next slide, you can see that our key part with addressing that to move forward is the difficulty in differentiating among TMAs. Because for us, it would make sense that since TMAs often end up at hospitals and they end up in very dire circumstances, you would think that there'd be more outreach to critical care units, to ICU units for different types of medical education. Why are the intensivists at hospitals not more aware of different forms of thrombotic microangiopathy? But again, the classification is going to be a difficult thing. Again, there is no set test, no specific diagnostic test for atypical AHUS. So when you throw all the types of thrombotic microangiopathy and the conditions that they would have, basically it's a rule out situation. You exclude other medical conditions, and at the bottom of the heap, That's atypical AHUS. We're what's left over. So again, that's why Atypical AHUS Awareness Day is so important. And we hope everyone joins in on September 14th and looks on our website for different ways to do that. Again, moving forward, one of the things that we would like to see is appropriate and affordable therapy. We really do need TMA multidisciplinary teams. If you look, it's not just nephrology and it's not just hematology. The lungs are involved. Cardiorenal syndrome is a real thing. Cardiomyopathy is an issue with patients who have a particular mutation for atypical AHUS. As Dr. Burke talked about, it's the whole OB/GYN issue as well. So we really do need a lot of different collaboration, working together, raising awareness. If you look at the last slide, we would like you to reach out and connect with us because we are united in this effort. Atypical AHUS Awareness Day is September 24th, but it's going to take everyone at the USTMA. It's going to take everyone who is in drug discovery, everyone who has a clinical trial going. We need to get information out. You can connect with us with this. There's our email. Len, I've taken up all of our time here. Perhaps you can address a little bit about the CAB and about the research that we've done, such as the diagnostic pathways to diagnosis and the 4 reports.
I'll just mention the CAB. That's really the way the AHUS global advocacy has evolved to. We've brought together at least 5 entities which have global outreach or have outreach in countries around the world and brought them all together in a partnership. And from that partnership, we have created a global community advisory board. So it's the first time that all global entities have worked together on an initiative for as long as there's been AHUS advocacy, as far as I'm aware.
Are there any questions that anyone would have or comments? Len, would you like to take that question?
If I recall, it was one of them algorithms that you see from time to time about how they started off with TTP and you end up with AHUS. We, in our articles about the diagnosis process, we thought that was something that was, as David says, is classic, but it is a bit old hat. And there are better versions of that algorithm, which started with everything at the first level, and then things, so everything is included. And then you work out from probabilities of what something a TMA would be, that you then go down to the individual diseases that could have caused the TMA, but at least AHUS starts off on an equal footing with all the TMAs, which is not the case for the classic decision tree.
I guess one of the things I'd like to point out is that I'm just a mom who has 2 boys who have atypical AHUS. Len is also a family caregiver. And the question that really should come up, and I'm sure it comes up with Answering TTP as well, if it's not you being involved, then who is going to raise awareness? Because there are a handful of people. We put out original content. We make our own slides. We make our own images. We will be coming up with an AHUS fact sheet again this year. And there are many different images we make for AHUS Awareness Day, but we also make images that speak to important points. And we quote research. But again, there are a handful of people doing this. So we would like to invite you all to become more engaged, to write articles, to create resources that you personally feel will be helpful to other atypical AHUS families. We had a family from Australia this morning, and what do? I don't know where to turn. We were just diagnosed. We sent her 3 aspects. One was a quick start, Atypical AHUS 101, which is what all families want to know. We sent another one. She was interested in starting her child at school. And so we sent one that was Atypical AHUS and school. And another one that she wanted to know is where she could get a printable type of thing that she could pass out, or a link she could share that talked about atypical AHUS main points about how it impacts families in just real plain language. And we were able to send her those because we live that. And those were the materials we needed for ourselves. And I would invite anyone listening now to keep that in mind. What do patients actually need? And then who is going to make them with an objective, authentic patient voice? Thank you.
I am not sure if you guys are able to hear me. It doesn't look like my camera is working at the moment, but I just want to thank everybody for their presentations today. What a great initiatives to learn about and to hear about. If you need any more information on any of these initiatives, please reach out to either the information provided in the session or reach out to me, and I will connect you with the advocate of the organization that you're looking for. So thank you so much, and I'm going to hop over to our final presentation, which is the wrap up with Dr. Mazeppa and Dr. Cadlin. Again, we appreciate everyone joining today.